So today's live lesson is all about tenor ukuleles and baritone ukuleles. We're going to be talking about what the differences between these are and why you might choose one over another, or maybe why you might need one of each for your ukulele collection. It's kind of a funny thing because I've been a high G player primarily. I also teach low G as well on a tenor ukulele for pretty much as long as I've been playing the instrument. And I just recently got this baritone and I've really been enjoying it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I've been enjoying it and what makes it very different of an experience than like a high or low G tenor. But what we want to start with is just some of the key differences between these two different types of instruments. Let's start with the tenor ukulele. And, tenor ukulele, sopranos in concerts are going to be tuned the same as a tenor. They're just going to be smaller. So I'm just talking about a tenor compared to baritone here, but most of the stuff I'm talking about will work with concert and soprano as well comparatively. But tenor ukuleles are the most popular size of ukulele, right? It's the one that you'll see me playing all the time. And the thing about the tenor ukulele is its scale length is going to be smaller than that of a baritone. What that means is if you look at the size of these instruments, baritone's quite a bit bigger, isn't it, right? So that's one of the primary differences between them. Another big difference between it is going to be the tuning. This is a high G ukulele, so when you listen to these notes, it's G, C, E, and A, and I've got that high G string on here, right? If I were to grab the baritone, though, there's going to be a lot of flip-flopping with these instruments. The notes are instead going to be D, G, B, and E with a low D. Now, you can have a low G string on a traditional ukulele like this, on a tenor size. You can also actually get sets that have a high D string on the baritone. I know Craig and Sarah have a great set. If you type in Craig and Sarah baritone, it'll pop up, I'm sure. So it's not that, you can't have both ways. You can, but they typically are going to be having this different tuning of D, G, B, E versus G, C, E, and A, right? And so those differences mean that the instruments have the same relative fingerings. What I mean by that is the intervals between the notes on both of these instruments are going to be the same. So any chord that you play on this ukulele will be the same quality of chord on this ukulele with a different note name. So just to give you a reference here, if I play this chord right here on this baritone, this is going to be D, G, B, and G. That's a G major chord. Third fret on the E string. If I play that exact same thing, and when I say third fret on the E string, let's think of it as third fret on that first string, the one closest to the ground, right? If I do that same third fret on the first string here, it's now G, C, E, and C, and that's a C chord. They're both major chords. They're exactly the same type of chord, just a different quality of the note. This one being a C major, that one being a G major. And this works for every single chord you could possibly play on these instruments. If I play a minor 7 flat 5 on this uke, it's also a minor 7 flat 5 on that ukulele. It's just a different name because of the tuning. It's actually kind of cool. If you were to take a capo, capo is where you actually, I don't have one on me, my fingers being the capo, but it's a little clamp that you could put over the strings. If you were to capo the 7th fret of an ukulele, then it would be D, G, B, E. But this is 2 octaves higher than this. If we listen to this, oh my gosh. Here it's the same, right? This one still has the high string, this one the low, but you hear that they're the same. So the 7th fret, 2 octaves up. Alternatively, on this ukulele, if I were to capo the 5th fret, and then I were to play this, you see it's the same as the open. And the reason is because that's the interval of distance between these two ukuleles. This ukulele right here is 5 frets lower than this one here. It's kind of cool, right? So those are the key differences between it. The baritone has a different tuning, a different scale length. One other note about that means not only is the body going to be bigger, but the frets are wider too, right? And you're going to find that these differences make them both similar, but also quite different. And so what I want to start with is I want to talk a little bit about why you would choose one versus the other. And let's go ahead and start with tenor. You've probably played a tenor ukulele. I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you're already familiar with tenor, and maybe it's baritone you're a little more unfamiliar with, right? But with a tenor ukulele, why would we choose this size, right? Well, this is the primary size I play, right? And the reason for that is I really like the traditional ukulele sound, which you really get from this size and getting smaller. And to go with that traditional sound, I really like that high G personally, right? That creates this really unique type of tone that's just, it's wonderful. It's the tone I've fallen in love with. My favorite players are players like Jake Shimabukuro and Aldrin Guerrero, and you'll notice they play with high G almost exclusively, and that's the sound that I fell in love with this instrument, right? So that's one reason why I like the tenor, is because it's that more traditional sound. Another thing is the fretboard's smaller. Now, people don't usually think of a tenor having a small fretboard, but when you compare it to a baritone, it is much smaller. So I can do big stretches on a tenor that I can't necessarily do on a baritone. And the last strength to a tenor, this is just a few of them, right? We obviously could talk a lot more about it, but one other strength is the high versus low G, right? It really changes the tone, and high G ukulele is so great for all these really unique techniques and sounds that really no other instrument can get. As soon as you put a low G on the ukulele, it gives it just a bit of a richer tone, and you get some options for more voicings that you don't get with a high G. But the interchangeability of high G and low G to really change up the sound is another strength to it, right? So tenor ukulele, it's got a lot of good things going for it. I mean, I've played tenor ukulele for, oh my gosh, how long have I played the ukulele now? 25 years? So it's been a long time. The point is, I've kind of stuck to high G for most of that time, doing some low G here and there for some lessons, but for the most part, it's been high G. So now the question is, why baritone? And this is where it gets a little more interesting. This is what I'm excited about. This is a baritone ukulele. And here on Rock Class 101, we're actually doing a giveaway for a Kanile'a baritone ukulele. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be awesome. This ukulele, this is a baritone ukulele, I got just a few weeks ago, maybe almost a month ago. I'm going to be doing some lessons with the ukulele site, and this is Andrew's brand, Oli. And I was not expecting to love playing the baritone like I love playing the baritone. I kind of expected to start using it to create some lessons and, do that process. And I just couldn't put it down. And the reason I couldn't put it down is because of how different it is. So let's talk about some of those differences. So why baritone over a tenor ukulele, right? Well, the first reason why most people play the baritone, and kind of why I shied away from it, is because of the guitar familiarity. What I mean by that is if you took a guitar and you took the 6 strings of a guitar, you took the top 2, the 2 bass strings, and you cut them off, you'd have a baritone ukulele in terms of tuning. So guitarists will sit there and they play this, and this is their D chord on a guitar, and it's a D chord on this baritone ukulele. So if you're a guitarist and you're looking to start playing the ukulele, the baritone can be a fantastic starting point because everything that you're doing is a little bit cross-compatible, and that makes it a little bit easier to start learning chords and playing things on the instrument. So that's a pretty cool perk. We'll take that. But the reason why I was a little more afraid of that is because, well, I'm used to the high G ukulele. So this is more confusing than it is helpful to me, unlike somebody who may have played guitar before. The next reason why you might look at baritone is just a much deeper and richer sound. Because it's so low in its pitch, it really sounds very different than an ukulele. Even a high G ukulele, a low G ukulele. Obviously, it sounds very different from a high G, but even the low G that has that low pitch, this sounds much deeper and much richer. And to me, my personal kind of feelings with it is when I play high G, if I want a richer sound, I would jump straight to baritone. I'd kind of bypass low G. And that's just me, because I want to go more towards that extreme of the sound. This is going to give such a low, rich tone because it's going to use that lower pitch with the strings. So it makes it sound more guitar-like, more, baritone, right? More low. To go along with this, the bigger box of the instrument, what I mean by that is this part here, the wood, the soundboard, the sides and the back, right? This is a much bigger body than a tenor is. And a bigger body means more sound. It means more opportunities for volume as well as just vibrations to occur. The difference between a soprano to a concert to tenor is pretty severe, right? It's pretty extreme. Well, it's actually the same from a tenor to a baritone, and I didn't realize just how much it was until I really started playing this one, right? I'm gonna kind of show this a little bit, right? I'm gonna play a little bit of something I've been working on. Just kind of playing around with some thirds and open strings. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play it on my high G ukulele first, and it's going to be in the key of C on the high G ukulele, right? So I'm going to bring the camera down. It's going to sound something like this. Let's move the microphone down so you really can hear it. Now on the high G, this is pretty. It's fine. This is not something I would play to highlight a high G ukulele, right? It does use the nice open C string while we're coming up. And we do get a little bit of what's called sympathetic vibration, which means I play a note and another string vibrates. But it's very incidental almost with the high G. It's not the focal point, right? The reason I'm showing you this is because, again, this is about why you might want to play a baritone. I'm going to play the same thing on the baritone. And as I do this, keep in mind the key will be different, but everything else is the same. I'm playing now in the key of, well, I was doing this over a C chord before, so now that's going to be over a G chord. We're actually in the key of D on the ukulele, on the high G, we're in the key of G. It doesn't matter. It's going to sound relatively the same. It'll be the same notes, just in a different key. And what I want you to listen for is the resonance here. I want you to listen for both the low notes and how much body they give the sound. But I also want you to listen for that, what I call sympathetic vibration, which is when I play a note, you'll notice a string will vibrate that I didn't even touch, which is kind of neat. So that might sound something like this. You can just hear there's so much sound that comes through this. Because the box is bigger, that leads to more volume, more sound coming out of it. And along with that sympathetic vibration I was talking about, this is what's really been fascinating me about this ukulele. Is one of my favorite things to play. I did a lesson for it on my YouTube channel of a minuet in G major, or minuet in it was in C major on the high G, but I've been working on an arrangement of it for baritone, and I've been working on it very differently than I do on a traditional ukulele because I love these D and G strings to ring out when I don't touch them. I don't play them, but they ring. Let's see if you can hear this. So this is best with headphones or cranking up the stuff, but go ahead and listen for the notes to be ringing. I'm going to stop it a couple times, and you'll notice that I'll touch the D and G strings and the sound will stop despite the fact that I haven't played them yet. So look at this. That's cool. Hear that? It's just so crazy. And you can play all the way up the neck. absolutely wild. Now, I'm not sure if you can hear that over the over all this, but that sympathetic vibration is really a pleasant thing to experience when you're playing this yourself. And because the box is so big, you can do this with cheaper baritones too, just because you can also do it with guitars, just because there's more body to it. Now, a cheap baritone will not sound as good as a nicer baritone, no question, but the bigger size does give a little bit more forgiveness with that, if that makes sense. I do think that this Oli is especially special with this stuff. It uses a lattice bracing system and things. I'm really, really blown away. But I can't put it down. And now to talk just a little bit about baritone for me, what I've been loving about the baritone is how different it is and how I have to think differently. And I almost have to let go a little bit. I'm a very theory-oriented musician. I like to know exactly what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. That's why I like teaching, is I can communicate what I'm doing well, because I needed it communicated to me, whether by myself or from a teacher or whatever else, to learn it in the first place. With the baritone, all the tuning's different. So when I'm thinking about what I'm playing, I gotta have to do math and stuff. And I find that I'm not thinking as much. I'm using a lot of the same muscle memory habits and things that I developed with this, but then they're changing to allow the baritone to really ring out and just sing. And I've written a lot of songs over the years, but in the last 10 years or so, I haven't written many songs outside of for projects, right? It hasn't been just for me, if that makes sense. And since getting this baritone, I've actually written 3 new songs already. And I would not have expected that if you told me. It's just something about playing this style that's so different. I'll play a little bit of an original song I'm working on right now. Just a bit of it. It's a song I think I'm going to call Drifting, but it sounds something like this. And what's funny about it is on a high G ukulele, right? I like to use my E and A strings, my first 2 strings, the 2 treble strings, and play melodies on there, and then allow the G and C to be more open, the 3rd and 4th strings at the top, right? Well, I kind of purposely wrote this song to leave my first strings open as much as I could and have all the movement be on my bass strings, because this is something I just can't do with a high G ukulele. Now, you could do this exact same thing I'm playing on a low G, but I think there's just something special about the continued resonance and lower pitch of it. It sounds something like this. Really nice resonance, and you can still strum on a baritone. Bring the camera back up. So there you have it, baritone. I'm just having fun with it. I'm gonna be making some stuff with it, make some content and things, and I've been really enjoying it. And if you're somebody who wants to try something else on the ukulele, I recommend giving baritone a try. It's very different, and what I like about it is it's kind of the low G vibe, but even more hardcore, right? And so if I could only have two ukuleles, I'd have a high G tenor and a baritone. And I didn't think that would be what I'd said even just a few weeks ago, but here we are. Beautiful sound and just can ring forever. Well, I'm going to check out if there are any questions that you guys have right now. I saw some things in the chat, and then these are recorded every second Tuesday of the month at noon Pacific time. If you're watching this as a recording, you can always leave your questions in the forums, and I'll be sure to answer them. I make sure I read through all of those as we go through. But looking in the chat here, Mary Jane says, hey, thanks for coming. David says, do you think the sympathetic vibrations are universal to all baritone uks, or is it the Oli from the ukulele site? I don't know. I think you'll still get a little bit of it on every baritone, but I think that the higher quality instrument you get, the more of that sympathetic vibration you're going to experience. I've never played a baritone like the Oli with that vibration, but I also haven't had a ton of experiences with different brands on baritones. So Andy says, I acknowledge the high G tuning gives the traditional ukulele sound, maybe best for music composed for uk, but I love low G for rock or folk songs, which is a lot what I like to play. Yeah, I mean, this is what's cool about it, is I like high G because of the reasons I like high G. They don't have to be any reasons you would or anyone else, right? This is what's so great about each individual's musical journey. It's their own unique musical journey. Enjoy what you enjoy. Don't worry about anything else. You can take inspiration from others, and if they get excited about something, maybe that can create some excitement for you, but it's totally fine to play what you like. Andy says, I want to get a baritone this year, hoping to win in the Rock Class 101 challenge. I'll be rooting for you, but I'm a little concerned that it would be hard to reach wide intervals. My hands are not especially big. It is bigger for sure. I've noticed that with some songs that are effortless on the tenor, on the baritone suddenly are a little bit challenging, but honestly, it's one of those things that you get trained for, and it's not a guitar, right? I don't know the size of your hands, but I can guarantee you there are people in the world with much smaller hands playing guitar just fine, right? And so hand size, it can certainly be a bit of a limitation, but I think people oftentimes make it out to be a bigger one than it actually is. Good training, flexibility, strengthening of the hand, you can do some amazing things. I've had students with itty bitty hands do massive stretches. It's if you think you can do it, eventually I think you'll be able to do it. So I'm going to look in the forums as well, see any questions that are here. Give me just 1 second as I go through. There we go. So on the forum, the Bumble Bard, looks like this is a poem. I've not read it yet, but here we go. To high G or low G, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler on the frets to suffer the limited range of a high G uk, or to abandon the sweet campanella. High G is heir to pluck to fret no more upon a low G or baritone. Aye, there's the strum, for on that sweet deep baritone what tunes might come. That's all I've got. I've made myself cry and laugh while writing that. Feel like I nailed that parody. Looking forward to the lesson. It will be interesting. Thank you for tolerating me this long. Excellent. This is the first time I've ever had a poem I've read on a live stream, but yes, it's funny because high G, low G, and baritone, they're three very similar instruments, but kind of different instruments in a lot of ways, right? I think that high G and low G are as big of a difference as low G to baritone are in terms of how you approach playing it. In fact, in a lot of ways, I'd say low G and baritone have more commonalities to them in terms of approach to play than high G to low G when it comes to best utilizing the intervals of the notes of the strings, right? Because it's a low G and a baritone are the same thing, just tuned down or up. High G versus either of those has a totally different octave on that G string, but it's all fun. This is what's cool about it. Mary Jane says, do you think the baritone is not as good for strumming songs? I have a cheaper baritone and it only seems good for finger picking. Yeah, actually, I would agree with that. Now, this is just opinion. There's somebody who probably is out there that loves the baritone for strumming songs. Keep doing it. Love it. Go for it, right? But yeah, I don't strum this thing much at all. Just sitting here strumming like a random chord progression. It's fine. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. But, I think it really shines when we get to use that that finger picking style. So yeah, I prefer finger picking. I'm not saying it's bad at strumming, just I prefer the finger style stuff. So here we go. And then Deanna says, I have found that if you're going to play on a regular basis, you must have both low and high G ukuleles. Therefore, you must have at least 2 ukuleles, which is the beginning of a collection and ukulele acquisition syndrome, also known as UAS. I'm guessing the most of our members have more than one uk. I'm curious as to the accuracy of this statement. How many uks do you have? I have 2 concerts, 1 low G, 1 high G, a tenor low G, and a small travel uke for long distance hiking. I have 2 banjo ukes, 1 needs a lot of work, and a tenor uke my father built for me. That's a total of 7. I don't have a baritone, but would like one because I love its deeper voice, but then I would have to learn how to play it, ... I don't think you can ever have too many ukuleles. UAS is a whole thing, ukulele acquisition syndrome. I mean, yeah, it's one thing to note is there's 2 different hobbies for most ukulele players. There's the hobby of playing the ukulele, and there's the hobby of buying and collecting ukuleles. Both hobbies are fine to have. They coexist really well, but don't let, the one of buying it dominate the one of playing it. Unless it makes you happy, then do it. Who cares, right? There are worse things you can spend your money on. But they are 2 different hobbies. I think thinking of it that way is a good way to make sure you don't buy too many and still get some practice in there. As far as how many ukuleles to own, I used to own a lot more ukuleles than I do now. I think I probably have about 10. Maybe it's a little bit more. At one point I had like 30 because I'd buy cheap ukuleles because it's... As you get nicer instruments, you tend to, thin the herd and have nicer ones to play. But it's definitely a thing for sure. Andy says, definitely suffering from UAS. I have 2 concerts tune high G, a tenor tune low G, a solid body electric tenor low G. So my baritone will be number 5. That's a good number. 5 is a good number, I think. It's when you get past 7. I mean, like now you can't even play 1 a day a week, right? That's getting a bit much. So I need to thin down the herd too, though. Rec Dog said, you did nail that, Bumble Bard. I'm talking about the poem. I have 4 tenors currently, all low G. I find that most of the lessons for high G will still work on a low G. Sometimes they sound a little bit different, but still good, and sometimes better in some way. When the high G string is used for a critical part of the melody, often a slight change in the arrangement solves it for me. Ron. Yeah, you're right. Most lessons online are made a bit more for the beginner crowd than they are more advanced crowd because they have to be more approachable, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And so when I do arrangements here on Rock Class 101, as well as on my Patreon page, I usually try to keep the arrangements compatible with both high G and low G for the most part. I really enjoy it when I get to do a high G, specific arrangement because I get to make some choices that don't translate well to the low G. In fact, I just did an arrangement of the Office theme song, like right before this live stream. Like this will be a lesson that comes out on Rock Class sooner than later. This is going to be a train wreck because I haven't actually played it. But with the Office theme song, during the main part of this, oh man, this is a bad idea, but let's go for it. What I did for the arrangement is when it goes, and then it goes, right? That sound there. When I do this part here, that's the melody note, and that's allowing me to move up for this nice high chord. You can't do this on a low G. You'd have to play it somewhere else. Like, you could go here and then slide, but you don't really have time coming off that. You have to use that high G there. So I use it for the melody, right? Right there, but then I also use it as a ghost note. I use it as this little filler. That's also very unique to high G. How's it go? I don't remember how I'm playing it because I just did the arrangement. Anyways, the lesson will be much better than this is because, again, I'm just working on it. But it's cool because it's right on, I just did this. It's using that high G string, both for that melody note, as well as a filler for strumming. And that will not work with a low G because it's so specifically made for high G. And this is a little bit more of an advanced lesson. So one thing that you might find is as you look for advanced high G stuff, you'll notice it does not work with low G, and vice versa. Advanced low G stuff, even simple low G stuff, just does not work with the high G. So I would say that if you're looking to play content online and you're just trying to have one ukulele that can play the most stuff, yeah, low G makes the most sense. But if you want to get into the really advanced stuff with high G using concepts like ghost note strumming and campanella and all that, you're going to have a really hard time playing a low G and doing that. In fact, you're not going to be able to because the techniques don't work. But that's what's fun about it. It's the same problems arise when you start trying to put bass lines on a high G. It just doesn't work. Play some really rich jazz with a high G. You can play rich jazz, don't get me wrong, but play something like Neil Chin, it's not going to work because you run out of space. So they both have their positives and negatives. Bumblebard also says, Diana, I agree with you. Well, there might be a case when you have too many ukes. I'm sure that's happened. The only reason I don't have 50 ukes is the guilt I have spending money on them. But yes, I think there's definitely good justification having multiple ukes. Just like the one you listed, they all serve purpose. I only have 5 ukes: Orange Boy with googly eyes, high G soprano, concert high G, a banjolele, a low G electric tenor that I won from Rock Class 101, and a sopranissimo tuning with uke with D tuning. I have also never played a baritone, but maybe one day. And yeah, baritone's a totally different sound, totally different thing. It's been really fun. I've really enjoyed playing it, much more so than I thought. I didn't think I wouldn't enjoy it, but I just didn't think I was gonna fall for it quite like I have. I can't stop playing it. So. Yeah. Well, if you're watching this and you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat before we stop today's lesson. Just to kind of recap though, tenor ukulele, baritone ukulele, two very, very different things, different sizes. Baritone's much bigger, the frets are bigger, everything's longer. With that also comes a difference in tuning. The high G ukulele, the baritone ukulele, they're going to be the same intervals of notes, but on a different starting point. If you capo a baritone ukulele on your 5th fret, you will have a low G ukulele, which is kind of neat. If you capo your ukulele on the 7th fret, your traditional ukulele, and then lower it 2 octaves, you'll have a baritone. They each have their own positives and negatives. I like the high G ukulele because I like that the fretboard's a little bit smaller so I can do bigger stretches. I like being able to play that high G style with campanella and with ghost note strumming. And I like the more traditional ukulele sound. This sounds to me like what an ukulele should sound like to my ear. Doesn't have to be to your ear, just to my ear. This is what an ukulele should sound like. So I love it for that reason. And I play a little bit of low G, but mostly high G because I love that sound. Along came the baritone though, and I'm loving playing this. I love how different it is to the high G. All of those things with the high G I can't quite do with the baritone, but at the same time, when I want to play things like bass lines and get this resonance continuing to come out of the instrument long after I've played a note, well, a baritone's the right tool for the job there. So if you're looking for more fingerstyle, more of a deep sound, it's still ringing. Still going. I think as I talk, it makes the strings go. Still going. Wow, that's incredible. When you want a bigger box for more sound, baritone's a great way to get that effect. And so if you're somebody who's looking to try baritone, I strongly recommend it. Even if you're scared by the different tuning and everything else, just give it a go. I did, and I'm having a blast with it. So, as always, we're going to do these lessons every second Tuesday of the month. So feel free to attend the next one live, and I'll look forward to seeing you all there. And if not, feel free to leave your comment in the chat or in the forums, and I'll be sure to answer it then. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate each and every one of you for checking this out, whether you're watching this live or recording. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later.